because we survived a life lived trans experience, and there's not very many of us. And so we should be sponsored by Rogaine, Preparation H, Vagisil,
Doc Johnson
and
toys.
I don't really do the enema stuff anymore, because that back door closed the day that I got my puss, and nobody was going to go in there again. She was a virgin again.
Like a
Absolutely.
virgin.
Anyways, hello everybody, and welcome to a Life Lived Trans podcast.
Woo.
We are life lived trans persons. Yes, believe it or not. Peekaboo. I am Marty, and this is Lenny.
Hello.
Right beside me. Yes, and we're both in our 60s. I just turned 63. How old are you, Lenny?
I'm 63.
You are 63. We're both
exactly
63.
The same age.
We're like the flip sides of the coin of how, Harry Benjamin standards of care wanted it. That's probably why we survived it. And this is why we're talking, because it shouldn't be like that. We're so excited to give you weekly doses of wisdom, or whatever you want to call it. It's like survival testimony from two old trannies.
Yeah, we've done this for a long time, and we've survived, and we've lived very full, very rich, and very adventurous
and we're growing,
lives,
and we're growing.
Still growing.
And we're still growing. Like, even to say the word trannies, like these young producers that are in their early 30s, they make us say these words.
They do?
Because they're trying to make us current or something. And I used to fucking hate that word.
Oh, we might have to have a word.
Such a slur.
Well, I don't care. We're reclaiming it. We're reclaiming it.
We're reclaiming it. I'm actually kind of getting good with it, in some ways. So if you want all the juicy stories, be sure to check out our Patreon, where you can see us in full visual too. And we're going to have links are in the description. And so I think, like, we've just started this podcast, so we're looking forward to having friends on and stuff. It's like I want to have Kate Bornstein on. She's a buddy of mine, and Laverne Cox has been a very big inspiration online for me, and we talk a lot online. So I'd love to get her on, and Alexander Billings and other people like that. So how have you been doing, Lenny? Since
Good.
last week, because I know the heaviness. Like, I'm in Canada and I'm watching the crap that's happening in the States, and it just, like, every day it's just insane. Like, you have to have an exorcism every day.
Every day. It takes a lot of self-care, because I have coined the term tranxiety.
Transiety, I love that.
Because sometimes you just find yourself curled up in a ball on the couch.
That's the name of the episode, please.
Tranxiety, right? Because there's so much bullshit being thrown at us here in the States, and people are very scared. And there's Lambda Legal is having a podcast next week about passports and what to do with passports. There's a Discord server for TransUnity to talk about people's experiences with getting passports. And imagine, if you will, if you're not transgender, or if you're not in the United States, that you cannot leave your country. You are trapped. And I forgot the name. Help me, Marty. The actress from Euphoria. She's about 20 years old.
Hunter Schafer.
Yes, she's lovely. And she's 20 years old. She transitioned years ago. She just got her passport, and it had an M on it.
And they put M on it, yeah. But I hate the first thing that came to my mind, in my Harry Benjamin mind, went, but she still has her penis. And that should care. But it's like, but that's how fucking conditioned my brain is.
Wow. Does she?
And I'm thinking, because... Well, I think so, but she shows it a lot, like on. But it's like, but I know for me, and that's great. Hallelujah! Like, there was girls that could do that all the time. I was going, fuck, I don't know how they can do that. And good for them. But I could never. I was just like, gay. I was so terrified. Like, that was my North Star, like, to get that fucking thing gone, and and to change that birth certificate as fast as I could.
Right. So.
Because that's the only way you could do it. You had to put your legs in the stirrups. You had to, like, a doctor had to look in there, and it's like, and then they go, okay, and then they write a letter and say that I'm anatomically congruent. Like, they would actually say that shit. This was in 1997.
Right.
So it wasn't that long ago. It was, but it isn't, 1997. That's where, so it's just been the last 10 years that people have been able to change their passports and birth certificates without having that surgery, right?
I didn't have to change mine. I got my United States passport. It's good till 2027.
Right.
And it's got an M on it, as does my driver's license. However, if they dig deep enough, and they can, especially with
To the birth certificate.
well, it's not just that. They can look and see if even that was changed. And with Elon Musk and these other,
Were you able to change that?
it's in process.
Oh, okay. So
I had
you
this
weren't before.
$2,000 lawyer in Louisiana who's working on it. I'm waiting to get a hearing date. But even if they seal that birth certificate, though, they have ways of going back and seeing, did you change it? And so I have to change it because I just got married and I changed my name back to Lenny Zenith because I had a hyphenated name before that. So it's petrifying. And imagine being stuck in your country. Things are getting really bad here. And I had a dream that I was sent to one of these wellness camps at RFK
Oh yeah, you
Junior's.
told me that.
It was horrible. And,
That was like a year ago, wasn't it?
no, well, that was 2 years ago when I had the dream that trans people were being rounded up and kept on cargo ships off the coast of
Right.
Guantanamo Bay, where they're now taking undocumented
Thinking of doing that.
immigrants. But the one I had this week was I was actually in a work camp and we were wearing all blue like scrubs, like in the hospital. And it was very 1984, as my wife pointed out.
Wow.
And I said, wow, well, at least the food's pretty good. But I was there with all these other GLBT people, and they gave us a little transistor radio. You can listen to this shitty music or right-wing propaganda because they were trying to re-educate us.
Oh, re-educate. So nobody was making their scrubs into like cute little things and stuff. That wasn't allowed.
Orange is the new black, yeah.
Doing the detox shuffle with those little slippers and shit. Oh my god. But anyways, let's get pull ourselves back from that. But yeah, there's a lot of crazy shit going on. Like what's going on? What's in the day to day? How's life going?
Well, as you know, I work full time. But I'm also a musician and a performer. So I did a great show last week. We did a Marianne Faithfull / Bowie cover of I Got You, Babe. I'm doing another one tonight for a yacht rock show. I'm doing Christopher Cross's Ride Like the Wind. So I've been just practicing and going to rehearsals and looking for outfits. And so it's keeping me very busy. Yeah.
Oh, that Marianne Faithfull one. I love your friend. What's her name?
Tammy Faye Starlight. She's so
Tammy
sweetheart.
Faye Starlight. She's awesome. It's like she's cisgender, but she reminds me so much of a lot of the stuff that I used to do in clubs and stuff. It's like it's amazing.
She's an amazing artist and actor.
Yeah,
and
cool.
She does a great Nico as well as Marianne Faithfull. So
she's an honorary one of us for sure.
And she's
really cool.
very fierce ally.
Yeah, she is very fierce.
How was your week?
Just to let everybody know on the show, we're going to be talking about how we survived back then, like the ways that we survived, because I just got a Blu-ray disc that was of Hookers on Davie. They've never had it on disc before, and this is a remastered version. This is the one that Tiggy's in.
Can you tell us a little bit about Davie Street again?
Yeah,
because you told us in another episode.
Yeah, we'll talk more about this in a sec, but I just wanted to maybe talk about like a few of the things that were happening this week. That led into this. It's funny because I did an interview for a organization that's putting on Hookers on Davie. They reached out to me a couple months ago, and they're having a screening of it for Hookers on Davie. And it's a lot of sex positive organizations are coming to this showing of it, and a lot of this trans organization is putting on. And this she's quite a famous like interviewer, book and author, Morgan Page. She's a trans woman, and she's Canadian and she lives in London. And they got her to interview me. So after the showing of Hookers on Davie, they had a little break, and then they're gonna have us on the screen doing this interview. Wow. Because Janice and Holly, the ones that made this back in 1984, they were the filmmakers out of I think it was McGill University in Montreal. They were like they came out to Vancouver in 1983 and did this documentary, and they did a couple other hooker documentaries and stuff.
Wow.
That actually are on this release as well. Plus there's an interview by Jordan King and me in here, and a couple of my TikToks that they put on here about Tiggy. Yeah, so it's a whole bunch of stuff in there. So
I wonder if we can get it here in the States.
Yeah, I think it's going to be available everywhere at some point. But at first, they're going to be doing a lot of premieres. I might be going down to Seattle to do a to talk
Ooh.
after a premiere about it. And this is the back. I love this picture of that's Mark Michelle.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
Mark
hot.
Michelle, that's a really wild picture of her in the back, and that's her in the front right there. And she always was showing her titties. And and it's so sad because when I got into recovery and I was able to leave this stuff, right? And we'll get into that, but I ended up I think I was 4 years recovery. I was like mid 1990s. And a friend of mine asked me if I'd start a Narcotics Anonymous meeting at this place called High Risk, which was the first resource center for to help trans people, and it was in the downtown east side. Like it was it was real hardcore, right? And so I showed up, and all of the one a couple of them that survived rolled in there, and they were so beaten up. It was so sad. Mark Michelle had that same showing her tit thing on, and she
Wow.
didn't even have one of her tits anymore
Oh,
because it was
no. Oh,
punctured by a trick. And she goes, "Oh, girl, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. Don't worry." She goes, "Girls, they roll down the window and I just hang the right tit into the thing, and they go, you want to go out?" And I'm just going, "Fuck you, MacGyvered that one, honey. Holy!" And I'm just thinking, "Fuck, we're so hardcore and we're such
well, it's
survivors
not
to the
just
end."
hardcore, it's resilience. The amount of
Resilience.
resilience you have to have, and this is, anybody who's either worked in the sex industry or related to someone or partnered with someone that does, is you get some hard knocks, and it
Yeah.
can be life threatening. And then it also leads to substance abuse, which is
Yeah.
self harm, because to deal with
Oh, that's the only way I could do
yeah,
it.
the
I was
craziness of
working. I
being
was
in that
working
life.
until I
Yeah.
couldn't. Once I stopped doing once I entered recovery, I couldn't be a hooker anymore.
No, no.
And I was going to go back to it. And then some of my counselors said, if you think, if with what we know from you, Marty, it's like you never wanted to do that work. And it's like, if you think that you can do it without drinking and drugging, you're crazy. And I
Right.
remember getting so fucking mad. I ran upstairs, started to pack all of my stuff. And halfway through the pack, I just fell down and I started crying.
Aw.
Because I knew they're right. And that's when the work began, right? Because I knew, like, fuck, because it's so hard to retool after you've been being a hooker, from 15 to 29, I was in that recovery house. And it was like, so what the fuck do I do? So I just, luckily, if you reach out your hands to the universe and go fucking help, you know what I mean? And you reach out to the resource centers around you, like I did. And luckily I was in recovery. I ended up going to, it's called Employment Skills for Women. And it was like a 16-week course. And I went with all these other women that were in recovery, and some used to be hookers and some didn't. But there was no other trans people around, right? There was none, because we were so marginalized. It was like, I was taking a chance just thinking that I would be safe entering recovery, because you didn't know who you could trust.
Right. Right. And
You didn't know.
I've told you before, I don't know if we talked about it in previous episodes, but my first live-in girlfriend did sex work. She was very large. She was taller than I was, 5'9". She probably could have passed for a tranny. But she was cisgender, and we were both, using at the time. And I remember I really tried to get her a straight job. I got her, I don't know if you remember Capezio shoes. They were really popular in the 80s.
Yeah.
They look like ballet flats, I think. And she
Yes,
worked
that
there,
was all the
and she
rage.
had to get
Very prima nina
right.
ballerina.
She
Yeah.
had to get straight clothes because she had working clothes. And then she went to work in this retail shop where she was making like $5, $4 an hour. And she said, "Lenny, why would I do this 8 hours a day when I can make the same amount of a week in an hour
Yeah,
or
it's a
two?"
huge retooling of the brain. Like, I'm so lucky that I landed in recovery, and I had a place to live, and I was like, just for 18 months I was it was basically an institution, really, when you
Wow.
think about it. But we were going to meetings, and we were going to all of these different different workshops and therapy and all that stuff. I was, I'm in Canada, so we have a lot of that good stuff,
Uh,
right? and I was able to retool my brain, and I went to employment sales for women, and I said that to them. I said, how am I supposed to, like, I don't have anything, like all I've done was suck cock and like done, that shit. And they said if you think that you don't have transferable skills like from what you did to be able to do that. So they showed me these transferable skills, and they said you'd be great in social work, like
Yes,
real,
absolutely.
like in the daylight social work, not
Right.
sucking cock social
Right.
work. You know what I mean? Like, because I
But
considered that social work because it was the same thing. And what I did, I got my first mental health worker ticket. It was like, and working with people in, in forensics, which are the criminally insane.
mhm,
I worked
mhm.
really well with them because I had to deal with all of these psycho dates and stuff. So they
Right.
thought, you're perfect. You
Right.
can work in this environment. So I worked with the really hard to house mentally ill people that have killed their mother and father
Oh
through
my
20
God.
years ago and stuff. You know what I mean? Like it was, but it was really hard. Like for me, like I ended up relapsing in that
Ugh.
job because it was
Yeah.
so hard. But I was, by that time I'd retooled even then. And then I got into becoming an activity worker in some of the institutions, right? Like I was like the bus lady first, driving, on outings, and I driving the happy bus and stuff like
Nice.
that. And then I started learning how to do coordination because I was running escort service because escort services before. So I thought, oh my God, it's like I can run all these different houses and their
You were
happy
like an
programs.
executive manager from all the skills you had gained in your
Exactly.
prior life. And that's the
But
thing
it's
is,
and if people can, yeah, and if people can do that transfer, if they can just work long enough to do that, figure out that transferable skill, and it's hard at first. Like at first, I had to work at Blockbuster Video and stuff
wow.
while I was going to school and stuff, and
Wow.
I was like, I felt like it was so beneath me, and I was like. I got a job that was like, on the other side of Vancouver, so nobody would see me and stuff. And I still I remember a date walking in there once, and an old date, and he was trying to get me to meet him after work, and I'm going, no, I was with my first husband, and I had to keep telling him to fuck off. And then one day, the manager pulls me in and says, we've been getting these calls from this guy, and it's like and and his name is blah, blah. And I said, oh, I thought, oh my God, I'm gonna lose my job. And he says, he keeps telling us, first that you used to be a hooker, and that you used to be a boy.
Oh,
And then
wow.
and I said, and I just wanted you to know that I told him if he called or came here again, I was going to call the police. And I thought, ally. It was just
Yeah.
great. I
That's
felt,
great.
for the first time in my life, I felt like I was safe, with a cisgender person supporting me. So I was sold on this new life, no matter how hard it felt on my feet and how much I had to, caboozle just to eat and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like
Yeah.
I just didn't want to have to
And
do
it's
that fucking
hard
work
when you don't
anymore.
have, support from your family and you basically are more or less living on the streets. I mean, I had an
Yeah.
apartment, but I was working at a department store. I sold toys, housewares. I worked at
Oh,
Kinko's. I waited tables. I, did whatever I could. I was also trying to go to college, but that didn't work because I was always tired from playing shows. And once I stopped using, things got a lot more stable. I got a new girlfriend and, we started dating. But that initial life, I don't think either of us, Marty, could have imagined back in those days, and we're talking 40 plus years ago, that
yeah.
now in this day and age there are trans people who are lawyers who speak in
Lawyers,
front of the Supreme
doctors.
Court, doctors,
Doctors that are giving doing vaginoplasties, like
right, trans women
kind of
that are
iffy ones, but
doctors
yeah, they're like
and
all the stuff.
lawyers and doctors and
I know you'd think you had just dropped
military.
you'd think you had dropped acid if
Yes, yes.
yeah.
Did you know that there are 15,000 transgender people serving in the U.S. military who
Wow.
just
And
basically got kicked out because of the new administration? But I didn't think we would ever come to the point where we were so broadly accepted. And now, in the course of almost 2 months, a month and a half,
yeah.
it's all been reversed. We've gone
But
backwards 20
But
years.
you know what? It's like being somebody from the outside, sort of like watching from Canada, and being a trans person that's lived this life. Don't you think that this was obviously going to happen. Like, this is the backlash of not having any rights. It's like, because we didn't have any rights, then we started to get into all of these different positions. Of course, they were going to challenge it at some point. It's just that it never has happened before. You know what I mean? So, like, let's not lose hope. Like, if this is the fight that was had to happen.
Well, and I
You
hope
know what
you're
I
right.
mean? Do you not kind of know what I mean, though? Because
Somewhat.
there was no stop gaps put in place. The stuff hasn't been codified. Like, look, do you think that you're like, who would have thought that your abortion would have been turned over, right? Because it was not codified. The
Right.
work wasn't
Exactly.
completed.
And the thing is that since we went so far, I mean, the Americans lost their mind when there was a black president, and what happened is they went way far
Yeah.
right. But I think this is an opportunity for us to do a serious correction, because there's all sorts of protests and
Yeah.
people fighting.
Same with the trans experience. So when they saw a black trans woman, 2014, on the cover of Time, holding a torch like the Statue of Liberty, saying the transgender tipping point, I was like, my first thought with Laverne Cox was, oh my God, this is so great. And then I thought, oh my fucking God, it's like there's going to be a backlash to this.
Right.
Yeah.
And there always is when something different pops up. But you know what they this
so
small,
don't lose hope. Don't lose hope,
there's
everybody.
a small group of people that found
I know
out
it's shitty.
that they could weaponize, you know, trans youth or kids getting gender affirming care, and they're like, that's it. That's what we're going to use to scare people with, the same way that they do with undocumented immigrants. That's what we're going to scare them with.
But now we're seeing the plethora of, like, I see reels and doctors and fathers and people that sound completely sane, speaking at local town halls or in their legislatures, that are saying, like, hello, it's like you're allowing you know, these puberty blockers that have been used on cisgender kids for decades. It's like, but for still to happen on those kids, but not on trans kids. So let's just say it: you don't like trans people.
Yes,
like
exactly.
That's the point. So it's being, the spotlight is, so the work is happening. It's like the genie's out of the fucking bottle. The horn has been blown. There's no fucking way we're going back.
And there's no fucking way we're going back.
There's no way. We got the internet now. We got this big, huge spot.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if this shit happened in the 80s, when you'd have to plaster posters around everywhere about what's happening?
Right.
Like, fucking, we would be taken down for sure. It's like, we have the ability to use these space machines and just shove it right back up their ass.
Yeah. And I think the farther
and we hold the remote,
it's going to swing back the other way. And we're going to get more rights, and we're going to get more respect, because I like to think of it as someone said, imagine if you had something like cerebral palsy or some other visual, you were differently abled visually, and people were like, oh, well, that's just horrific or horrifying. That's how they're going to come in the future. They're going to go back and say, oh my God, I can't believe we were demonizing these poor trans kids. And making them, you know, unalive themselves and treating them so horribly, because you're born that way. And there's so much science that backs that up, that you just know, like, you know who you are from the core of your being very young. Some people don't have the words for it until much later. You know, I see some trans people transitioning in their 30s and 40s and beyond. But you just know at the core of your being who and what you are, and you're not hurting anyone. My dad was a preacher, and when he found out that I had been going to school, junior high and high school, as a boy, but kind of behind his back, he said, what have you been doing? And the one thing he said was, well, you're not hurting anybody. He's like, I guess as long as you're not hurting anybody. And I wasn't, and we aren't.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
So they're going to look back on this time, and I hope they have at least a smidgen of remorse, because it's absolutely monstrous. Kids, thankfully, don't have to do the kind of work that a lot of trans folk did, trans women mostly, in the 70s and 80s.
I know. And the only reason why none of these people in this, and, you know, and everybody has a Davie Street. This is this Hookers on Davie. It was filmed in 1983 on Davie Street in Vancouver, right? Which was the infamous hooker stroll. It was like in Davie Street was like a gay mecca.
Oh,
It still
cool.
kind of is in Vancouver. It's in the just gorgeous West End part of Vancouver. Stanley Park's there, which is like twice as big as Central Park, right? It's just gorgeous.
Oh, wow.
And 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 the stroll, Davie Street went right down it, and the cis girls worked on one street, like the trans worked on another street, the boys worked on the other street. It's like Tiggy and I were allowed to work with the cis girls because we were really fishy, and they used us to lure like little fishies to
right,
like
right,
lure the dates, and then so we'd start them off and they'd finish them, so we learned how to be cisgender girls on the rag right from the beginning, you know what I mean, type of thing, and that's what we did. And but the only reason why I survived and it didn't, like Tiggy's secondary characteristics start kicking in too, right? And but mine were very kind on me. It's like there was no puberty blockers or
right.
no anti-testosterone back then. So I was able to get by, quite very well. And my palm color too, because, she was native. Well, she was a Métis,
Uh-huh.
which is French Canadian
Right.
native here, and just absolutely gorgeous, like stunning. I hope you guys see this. It's like if you can see it, watch this. But it's the only reason it all comes down to, the bricks never made it. It's like
Yep.
if you could not pass, it was your death sentence. And it's like, and I mentioned that I think I mentioned that last week, but that Tiggy and I had that pact with each other that if we as we grew up when we were 16, we had this pact that we'd kill ourselves
Right.
if we started looking like men because we
Yeah.
knew it was
And
too
I
hard.
even remember telling my mom when I was probably 17 or 18, saying, I just feel like I want to kill myself.
Mhm.
And she said, I think quite wisely, she said, wait until you're 21. And I think what she realized in the back of her head is once you get older, once the hormones kick in, once
Yeah.
you feel better, you won't feel that way.
Wow, that's powerful.
Because
Wow,
I
eh?
started on right on my 18th birthday because I had met these doctors in my early teens who said,
Yeah.
we can't give you anything right now, but come back when you're
Yeah.
18. And those two doctors that gave me a little bit of hope and my two parents' friends who were affirming saved my life. Otherwise, we
Wow,
wouldn't
that's
be here
interesting
talking to
because it
each
was
other.
around that time too for me. We're so the flip side of the, male female coin, right? Because it's like it was right around that time, 1981, when I went to my first time to get for my consultation to get my
Hmm.
vagina in Toronto, and they said, and that's when I saw that I was on acid after I saw this crazy doctor, and he was like
Wow.
old and stuff, and shaking hands, and then this trans native girl at this club in Toronto, when she knew why I was there after she was gonna, like, anyways, she dragged me to the bathroom and so showed me. I always say that that's when I saw a Frankencunt, and it's like because she says, "Oh, he did me," and she shows it, and I'm just like
Yeah.
on acid, and I started laughing because I was freaked out, and then I turned the laughing into crying because I could tell she was going to beat the shit out of me,
Oh,
and so I started crying and going, "Oh my God, you're so lucky!" And I went running out and went to my hotel and went back to Vancouver, and I went to my sister's. Right after I landed, and I'm going, oh my God, Frankencunt and this and that. No, Jesus Christ, it's like it looks so horrible. It's like there's,
was
you
your
know,
sister accepting?
well, that's a
Oh,
whole other story. Let's
okay.
put a pin in that. She's a
Okay.
cunt.
I'm gonna
Anyway,
write it
she's a
down.
cunt. She's but I'll give her this one time she was wonderful because she
Oh,
said to me, she says, "Don't worry about it. Just put it on the back burner until they get better." Until the surgeries get better, because I thought, fuck, I have to do this so bad. But if it looks that crazy, I was like, what the fuck?
well,
And
and
so
this.
I was always in that dysphoria, like, okay, I'll let them butcher me. I don't give a shit
Mm,
but they were so bad back then. Like I'd have girlfriends that would call me and going, oh my God, my clitoris fell off. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And they can't put it back on. And it was, you heard this shit all the time. It
No,
was
and that was the
insane.
reason. I mean, I spent years wanting to get balloplasty and thinking about it, and and very early in the 70s, even there was a cable access show in San Francisco. I want to say the guy's name is Steve Dane. And he said, if there's any way you can get through life without it, because back in the day, the
Yeah.
surgeries weren't as good as they are now.
No.
And even when I had my first top surgery in 1988, That was a long time ago, so I'm actually
Yeah.
looking into getting a revision so it'll look a little bit better. I mean, the doctor did a great job, and I just
It was
connected with.
archaic back then. It was they used to use you know what dilators they used to do when I first saw like the first one that had a cunt and I was like 16 in Vancouver
Okay.
and she had just had her surgery and it's like we're
Mm-hmm.
at a party at some guy's house and I didn't know they had this one of the famous trannies from Davie Street was there. She comes out of the room and her fucking it's just fucking stoned out of like pilled out of her brain and
Mm-hmm.
she just came back from getting her cunt and she's got these tubes flapping around between her legs and she's got this kimono on and she's got these beautiful boobs and I'm just staring at her boobs going, oh my God, I want those so bad. Like I want them for me, right? And
Right.
it's like and she's going, well, okay, so like I got my cunt, right? Okay, so I got my cunt, I got my nose, I got my okay, I got my cunt. I got my cunt now, right? I got my, and they just kind of took her and pulled her back into the room. And I'm on acid. I'm just going, oh wow, she's so glamorous. This is so crazy. You know what I mean? And it's like, but when I fast forward, so many vaginas like atrophied, got necrosis because
So what was
they
she
would
using
shove
as
these
a
they would shove these
dilator?
balloon they would shove these balloons, these hard balloons up there, and you'd have to pump them up, and you would walk around with these inflatable
No.
shit in you. And what that does is they found out later it cuts off the circulation to your vagina. So all of these vaginas were dying and
Oh
oh, it was
no.
horrible. The vaginas were dying, Lenny. It was so
No,
sad.
save the vaginas.
Save the vagina, save the vagina. But I wanted to ask you this. Like in some ways, I think trans men got the shit end of the stick when it comes to because it was just so. It's they just got to it so later. You know what I mean? Like it was such a later thing. But also, I used to be so jealous of you guys because you guys could blend so
We
easily.
could pass a lot easier, especially
And there's
even if you're
so many.
short and you're a
Yeah,
little hippie. There's a lot of short hippie men, cisgender men. But what's
yeah.
interesting is I don't know if you know who Annie Sprinkle is, who
Oh
did the
fuck, I love
boob
Annie
bosom
Sprinkle. I
ballet,
love. I
and
used
I.
to, I've done that number. I've imitated it
Oh,
at Love
nice,
Affair
nice. And
with
so
the teddy bears and the eggs
yes,
and
I
yes,
met
I
her here
love
in New
it.
York, and she did a film with a very early trans man who was her
I love
boyfriend
you,
at the
Annie
time.
Sprinkle.
We love you, Annie. She's an eco-feminist now.
Annie,
Um,
place eggs all over me with teddy bears.
and Linda Les and Annie. That was the show, and they were. It was very graphic, and I saw like a premiere at her apartment here in New York of how the early penile implants, because they don't get hard by themselves. You have to
Yeah,
like you were saying, stick a balloon and pump it up, or use a
yeah.
pump, or use a rod of some type to get it erect. And I was like, that's not going to work for me, and I enjoy sex too much to mess with anything like that. Although, you know, you never stop wondering what it's like. And thankfully, they came out
Yeah.
with better and better prosthetics, shall we say,
But I've
to
I've always
use.
heard that homegrown is the way to go, right? Like it's to homegrown is the way to go. Because you take enough testosterone, the clitoris gets bigger.
Yes, it does.
Because your clitoris is basically your dick. Your
But
dick is your
you'll never
clitoris.
be able to,
Because that's what they take for it to become the clit, is
right.
the nerves from
Well,
the
and
tip of the
that's
dick.
the conversation I was having with my buddy James last night, was that, because they passed
Your
this
dick
law
is your clit, everybody.
that there's only male and female, and
And your dick is your clit, and your
that
clit is your dick.
and that executive order says there's only male and female, and that happens at
There's
conception.
a song in there. There's a song in there.
Wait, and that happens at conception, but what do we know about fetuses when they are conceived, or when
They're all female.
they're all female? And
They're all
so
female.
every
So
every man
every
here in the
man is a
United States
tran.
is a
Every
tranny.
man is a tranny. Oh my
I think
God,
that's got to be our
we gotta make
song.
a song.
I'm
Your
gonna
clit
write
is your
that
dick.
down.
Your clit is your dick. Your dick is your clit. Your clit is your dick. Your dick is
Every man's
you're
a
all men
tranny.
are trannies. All men are trannies. Yeah, fucking something like that. Let's do
I'm
it.
writing it down. Yeah,
A
Marty and I are gonna do
new protest song.
a rock song
Yeah,
together,
let's do
and
it.
then we're gonna do a video. Oh my
Oh
God, you're
my
all trannies.
God. I love
But
being punk rock at this age.
I know. And
Even if
so
I'm in pink.
I
Well, it's
was
a
rocking
peach.
out so hard to something the other night, Sex Pistols or Clash or something, and I was like, I just had to get that anxiety and
Yeah, just blow
stress
the
out.
stink off of it. Yeah.
and that music still does it for me. And I'm sure there's like new punk rock
Oh, me
bands,
too.
but
This is the punk rock stage. When I see the kids going, like the two kids that produce our podcast and stuff, and they have the Diva Down podcast. I listen to them. I just
I've
fucking
been
love them.
listening too.
They
They're
they
hilarious.
remind me of little punk rock, little shit disturbers for like that we were back in the '80s, and I
Right,
just love
right.
it. I just love it.
But
Yeah.
let's move on a little bit and talk about what happened once we did get out of
Okay.
that
Moving on.
that difficult stage.
Got to
I
move on.
dated Catholic high school girls because I was still pretty young after I
I
had,
was a Catholic high school girl.
ooh. And after I moved on from the hard woman that I had been with, she was much older and bigger, and she was also physically violent towards me, which sucked.
Yeah, we all get one of those,
But
don't
then,
we?
I started dating. I had relationships. I moved in with one girl for a couple of years, and another girl for 7 years, and fell in love. And I was a romantic at heart, and I wrote a lot of love songs about all the girls I was in love with, and then ultimately met somebody here in New York, and I was married and lived a pretty normal cis heteronormative life for
Yeah.
20 some odd years. But I continued to speak out if I was invited to P Flag. I wonder if they had this in Vancouver now, as I hear Davie Street is still considered a gay village in
Yeah,
Vancouver.
it is.
But we have a clinic here called Callan Lord, named after, I think it's Michael Callan and Audre Lorde, which caters specifically to the LGBTQ community and also sex workers
Oh
because,
yeah.
sometimes they can't pay. And I always go there because I have insurance and I want to hold up. But they get federal funding. So if they get clipped wings from from the government, I don't know what's going to happen to the clinic. But they didn't really have that in New Orleans when I was growing up, anything like that.
Right.
Um,
Well, in Vancouver, they have actually when I cleaned up about in 1991 officially, and by 1993 I was no, about a year later, I started hanging out with other women in recovery that were ex-sex workers, right? And again, there was no trans other people in Vancouver that were in recovery. Like that's how fucking
mhm.
sick we were, and we just couldn't trust, right? And I was being stealth too, right? So we started Prostitutes Anonymous in
Oh,
Vancouver.
wow. How cool.
And then from Prostitutes Anonymous, we started getting a lot of hookers, people that were there that wanted to get off the streets and they needed resources and we were just a meeting, a 12-step meeting, right? So then there was a organization out of Florida, I can't remember it offhand, but we used their materials and stuff and started a sister program in Vancouver called PACE, which stands for Prostitution Alternatives in Counseling and Education. And I'm one of the founding members of that fucking thing.
That's
If you
cool.
look it up, it is, and it still is happening today. And it's like it helps people get off the street. It helps people, if they want to stay on the street, get resources and stuff. It's just fabulous. Yeah. So I'm not saying sex work is work. If you can do it, great. If I could
Absolutely.
have still done it, if I could have still done it and not lose my marbles and like take drugs, I probably would have still done it. I was really good at it.
Well, and
I was a good genital operator.
we were going to talk about our relationships, but I think what you're saying is really important because I think I want to
Yeah.
stay on this topic a little bit. I think that
Yeah.
sex work is work, and there will always be
Absolutely.
men and women now who
Yeah.
are looking for this
It's a
unattached
need. It's a need.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a need. So, like in some countries where it's regulated
Yeah.
and people are tested and it's done
Yeah.
safely and it's not criminalized, it could be a lot better. It doesn't have to be a freaking traumatic life. And
Absolutely.
some women, particularly in LA and Las Vegas and a couple of other areas, Denmark, uh, uh, Amsterdam, they've made it safe
Yeah.
for women and young
Yeah.
adults to be engaged in that and live safe lives because for
Yeah.
some people it's a decent way to make money. So we have to be realistic about the human drive,
Yeah.
right? And
Sure.
that sex, and that's
Hmm.
what fucking pisses me off about these puritanical religious nut jobs that are so far right. And my dad was a preacher, but he was liberal and he was
Yeah, but
funny
we
and
know that
kind.
most of them are the biggest clients,
They're
for God's sake.
repressed. They're so
They're the biggest
repressed.
clients too. They're usually the ones that are, in, Chrissy Sissy pantyhose with a butt plug up their ass,
Right.
you know.
I don't know. Is that a specific brand, Chrissy Sissy?
I think it is a brand now.
It
I think
should be.
I think Diva Down and the girls are turning this into a brand. Yeah.
Oh, good. Because if it's not,
Yeah.
I'm gonna launch that shit right away. But a
But
Chrissy
yeah, but
Sissy
our
with or
relationship,
without the
getting
butt
into our
plug.
relationships with that, it's like I ended up, so I've had 3 relationships ever since I gotten sober, right? 3 marriages. And, each one of them was a little bit safer and a little bit better for me, right? It's like we learn as we grow, right? Type of thing. Hopefully, if you're doing therapy, get your therapy, keep doing your therapy and be around people that are growing and stuff. And, because when I think of my first husband, who was basically a chaser, and I was pre-op then, right?
Ugh.
It makes my toes curl what I fucking put up with him, right? And but that was the stages of the tranny, just like stages of the cross, with Jesus,
Right.
right? It's the stages of the tranny, especially the trans femmes, right? But it sounds like for you too, because you were with somebody that beat you up and shit, and
And that
you
was the
know,
first one, yeah. But then as I
yeah,
got into more healthy relationships, or I learned how to be a better partner because I
yeah,
continued to be in therapy and continued to be in therapy, which
exactly.
saves my life. But most of my
If
girlfriends,
somebody's not in therapy, I can't be friends with them.
right, almost just about. But
Yeah, I can't.
I found that most of my girlfriends were very supportive. There were a couple who didn't want to tell their families or they wanted to keep it on the down low. But the relationships that were the strongest were the ones where I felt fully supported. They're like, you are who you are, and I don't care who knows it, and I love you exactly the way you are. And my current second wife now, who was my girlfriend back in the 80s, it was as supportive and loving and accepting as anybody could be. And we will fight people who say, oh well, keep it down, don't talk about it, just like be stealth again. And I might have to be stealth just to fucking not get arrested by the American
Yeah, but we do that all the
Gestapo. But
time, right? It's like, but unintentionally, even, right? We just
well, when I go to the store, it's not like I'm
like
wearing,
what?
well, sometimes I'll wear a trans shirt to the store, like
Yeah, like
the
I went
one
through.
that was it you or Alexandra Billings who has the shirt that says no, oh it's you, nobody knows I'm
We both
trans.
have it. She got it first, and then I got it. Yeah,
Yeah, I love that shirt. I
yeah.
love
And
that
now my
shirt.
anarchy, my trans anarchy shirt.
I'm
I love.
getting one of those. I'm stealing
Yeah,
that from you.
yeah. That's a real cool one.
I
But
can't
yeah, it's
find it
like
online, so you'll have to send me a link because I
I
love that
went to
shirt.
Mexico last month, and it's like, it didn't even really, and I was using the bathrooms and shit. And it's like, and I just kind of go, what's with all this? I just can't believe there's such a hubbub. But if you looked different and you walk, it would have been a whole different situation, right?
Yes,
Like they just
yes.
let me and Graham through. It was like, and I just put on the real granny vibe and just go through,
The
right? Like
granny
acting like I don't know. Oh, thank you, Sonny, and all that bullshit, right?
I'm gonna have to try that. I'm gonna have to. My passport is, I think, still good. I think I could still get out by the end of March if I have things go really south. But I'm gonna have to get a new one with my new name change. So
Yeah.
it's a real
I
stressor.
don't
But
think you're gonna have a problem. You look like James the Second of fucking United Kingdom, for Christ's sakes.
I've been growing this out for a few years. My mom hates it. She's like, "Oh, Lenny." I think she thinks it looks like Che Guevara or Fidel
Oh, that's
Castro
great.
because she's Cuban. But yeah, I don't care. It's a, and then who knows if they dig into the deep, 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 dark archives of Louisiana, maybe they'll find something. But hope that the lawyer comes through for me. But I am so glad that we are friends and that we are both found people who love us and that we can have fun with. I love Puerto Vallarta. Maybe we can all meet up there again sometime
Oh, that'd be great.
as
I see why
a
people.
foursome.
I see why old people go down there for and live there for like 5 months out of the year.
Oh wow,
It's
yeah,
oh yeah, I could do it in a second. I could just be this beach blonde beluga, just
Ugh,
like walking around. Like I was getting 18,000 steps a day. It was just,
wow,
I
that's
was,
amazing.
I was moving. I
Well,
was
you
just
look
this
like you
little,
were having fun and you looked
oh,
great at by the
yeah,
pool and
I unlocked a couple new characters in myself that I never thought I had.
Wow. Okay,
It
I'm
was
writing that
funny.
down because I want to hear more about that either on the
It was
next
fun.
podcast or
It
but I
was
love what
fun.
you said about manifesting change because I know a lot of people think that's woo-woo bullshit and whatever. And I'm like, I can manifest the change that I want to see, that I'm going to be safe. I'm going to be able to get out of the country because I love to
Yeah,
travel and I want to travel more. That, your book is going to be a huge success, that my book's going to be a
I
success, that we're
know.
going
I
to
got signed. I couldn't
actually,
believe
I
it.
know that's so great that we're going to get to meet and travel and maybe we'll like do a TV
Yes,
special together,
that'd be fun.
and they bring us out and they're like, you see, you can live
Yeah.
and a great
What? Well, I
full
think that
life.
that's what's going to happen is like as we get older, the young ones like, Carmen and Carly, and it's like some of my trans daughters, they'll be wheeling us out in the wheelchairs like to these events. We'd fly out like because like we're leaving testimony, we're like, the only two that the only there's like about 10 of us in the world that can actually like tie our shoelaces and tell our stories, right?
I think I saw an 80-year-old trans person recently, but we have an organization here in New York called
But were
Stay.
they? But they were. Did they had they transitioned? To see
They
this.
no, they transitioned quite early.
Oh, they did.
They
Okay,
did,
because a
yeah.
lot of people go. Oh, Marty, Susie, and from TikTok, it's like she's a life. She's a trans woman in her 70s, and I go look and bless her heart, but it's like she looks like she just started having fun with blue eyeshadows and mini skirts, and
Well,
it's just all freaking. It's
let's
all I
not
know.
police people that transitioned
I
later.
know, but it's like it's a whole different, it's
Whole
like
different vibe. When you've lived
I
your
know to
whole
say
life
like
as
it's
a
like, oh,
trans
this is your
person.
kin, and it's like you're supposed to talk. I have nothing in common with them. Sorry, I
Yeah,
don't.
yeah.
I have in the sense that we're the trans. I have in a sense with everybody of the human experience, but it's like we have to watch that too.
Well, the thing that I
Because
found.
there is a lot of people newbies and people older, especially trans femmes that are older
Mhm.
that do pretty some icky shit. It can be pretty icky, and it can look it. It's just, but that's anybody can be kind of icky in their 80s, right?
Right, right. And I had to police myself because there was a trans person, I won't call them out, who had transitioned early or recently, I should say, in their
Right.
40s, whatever. And I felt, well, I've been doing this a lot longer than you, so I'm more trans than you are. And I was like, Lenny, shut the fuck up. What are you talking about? Like,
But it's true.
we don't get to claim, more authenticity than they just found out later, or they didn't have the
I know, but
wherewithal that we had.
if they're sounding off shit that is totally stupid and
Yes.
claiming it as the trans experience, like, no, honey, that's your experience. And it's like, and that's, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I can see why a lot of the girls want to distance themselves and bring back transsexual and all that stuff too, but which is hilarious because back when I was a kid, you didn't want to have any tags to you.
No,
You wanted,
we didn't want anybody to know.
you didn't want to have any tags. You just
But
wanted to be a woman. You just wanted to be a man. That's
before
it.
we start shutting this down,
Yeah, before I get be told that I'm a pick me or something.
um, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, I
This
can't wait
this
till the
senior
next one.
moment was brought to you by Rogaine.
You
Not
make me
really,
laugh so
not
much.
Rogaine.
I
Okay,
love doing
preparation
this, even though I'm
H.
so
Preparation
busy.
H.
But I just hope that everybody gets to live the life that they want to live, and they are express themselves, the way they want to express themselves. If people
Yeah.
can't get over Jonathan Van Ness in a dress, who is beautiful or Conchita Wurst, or Alok, who is hilarious and also very spiritually grounded, too bad. Get the fuck out of here. I mean, but there's a cornucopia, there's a rainbow of people to
And we
love and
all
to
have these
accept.
different experiences. Some of us have more similar ones, some not. It's like, It's like mine is more closer to the binary, right? And
Mine
it's like
too.
because I just broke out of the fucking thing and realized that holy shit, it's like, oh my God, I've been gaslit the house down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like God, talk about pick me's. When I first started on YouTube, I was a horrible. I was just like, the transgender umbrella has holes in it, for God's sakes. And
Yeah,
it
right,
was,
right, right.
I was
But
just
you know
like,
what I
wow.
found as I have gotten more into TikTok and into, expressing myself, I'm more comfortable with. I've bought like more pink stuff than I ever owned because look at you and you're wearing pink and I'm wearing blue. We're
Pink
still
and
kind of
blue.
in
I
the
know
the
we're
boy girl mode.
Harry Benjamin would be so proud of us.
But now
Wouldn't she
I
love
love, the nail polish occasionally, but I just don't like the way it feels. And I have pink bell bottom jeans that I'm going to wear tonight. And, I've got a
We need
pink
to get you
hoodie.
a string of pearls, like a Westwood little pearl necklace there.
Oh,
That'd be
no,
cute.
I don't know if I would look good in those. I do have,
You
do
have some
have some,
pearls?
well, do y'all have
Well, you're Mardi
Do y'all
Gras.
have Mardi Gras in Canada?
Oh yeah. Well, I am Mardi Gras.
Oh, Mardi, you are. And you probably have your own float too.
Oh, honey.
But these are my Mardi Gras Barbara Bush
Oh, there you
pearls.
go. Those are cute.
Yeah. So, but we'll coordinate our
But
outfits for
and if you
every show.
if you were paying that extra little bit of money, like every week, you could see us, because I think we're gonna have a few tiers. Like we're gonna have like where you can get the full episode, and then another tier so you can actually visually see us
Yes, that would be
with
fun.
and you can read Lenny's beads. Did you used to say that? That used to be a term saying, "Oh, girl," it's like she read her beads.
No, I've never
It
heard
used to be
that.
reading her beads. Oh, she's reading her beads, girl. It's like
Oh my God,
she's
my
reading her
camera's
beads.
backwards
He's
and I
reading
can't
her
fix
beads.
my hair. All right, we got to end the
Reading
episode now because
reading your
Lenny's hair
beads meant
lost control. What does it mean?
reading your beads meant that you were being clocked, or that you were
Oh,
clocking somebody,
nice.
or you were like you knew what was going on.
Like anal beads.
Anyways, we're all over the map here. I think that's
I
about time to
thought it
go.
was funny though. I thought there was a lot of good information, and I think we're going to wrap up. But thanks everybody for joining us. We have a lot more fun stories to tell, and we've got one coming up on trans history and famous people that maybe you didn't know about.
Yes, and other stuff. And if you want to hear something, you got any questions or stuff, go down to the description below and to our socials and DM us and leave us some messages there. I check my DMs once a week. And with that, we hope that you've enjoyed this episode of Life Live Trans podcast. We will be releasing new episodes every week exclusively right here on Patreon. If you want to find us individually, you can find us down below at Mardi Pants with a Z or Lenny Zenith.
That's right.
Yeah. Promote
Love
my
you,
local.
dear. So
Oh
good
wait,
to
we're
see
supposed
you.
to promote our social media accounts. See, we're learning here. So I'm Mardi. Everything Mardi Pants. MARDI PANTZ with a Z. And
Zed.
Lenny Zenith.
Lenny Zenith everywhere. And you can find my music on YouTube, and you can hear more about my story on the TikTok. And that's about all we have.
Yeah, thanks for listening and supporting our podcast and supporting our Patreon. Love you guys.
Love you. See you next week.
Support your old
Thank you,
transsexual
Carmen.
people. Thank you, Carmen. Thank you, babies.
A Life Lived Trans is a Diva Down production, produced by Carmen Laurent and Carly, aka Tranby.
Your hosts are Lenny Zenith and Marty Perenek. Thank you for supporting our Life Lived Trans testimonies.
For full episodes and bonus content, please visit www.patreon.com/alifelivetrans.